Now, to break this down further, we are joined by Yoav Harris, maritime law senior advocate and leading litigator at the Harris & Company Law Office. Thank you very much, Yoav, for being with us. Ultimately,
Thank you.
An attack on international shipping like this is very clearly under the purview of piracy. Are there not international task forces that are supposed to deal with exactly this situation?
Exactly. Under the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea, the right for innocent passage applies not only in the high seas, but also in the territorial waters of a coastal state and also in the straits themselves, where all vessels are allowed for transit through the strait. Now, as mentioned and as can be seen in the video, the act is pure act of piracy also according to the convention, because it's acts of violence committed against the ship, either by a ship or an aircraft. So it's a pure act of violence. And according to the convention, piracy has to be seized, as all the countries have to fight piracy. A vessel is under a vessel or aircraft which is active in piracy is under the jeopardy of being seized all around, either in the high seas or other waters. But this matter takes us back to another act of violence which was committed against the vessel Helios Gray on February 2021. When she was navigating through the Hormuz Strait, she got hit by a missile or a sea mine, which didn't make her sunk, but did cause her damage and interrupted her navigation. Now, this attack, which took place about a year ago, was followed by the Iranian publication in their news agency, telling the both to, first they were telling them that their commando or their navy is increasing its activities to search foreign vessels and to protect the Iranian vessels. And another so-called interview, which was headed at this as if Israel and the US are legitimizing assassinations in other countries. Now, if you look today at the Fars news agency, you can see all around only a Hamas view or eyes or a publication related to what is happening in Gaza. So the connection is not is quite clear, although not being admitted formally. But what can be done? This method of action of Iran is not new. In the 1986, during the war between Iran and Iraq, the Iranian aimed to seize then the state of Kuwait tankers. So what the Kuwait done, they flagged their tankers into United States flags. And as a result, the United States escorted those vessels, those tankers, because they have the right to protect them against violence. And accordingly and additionally, other states started to make convoys and escorts in these international waters, the straits, or as mentioned, international waters, either to protect vessels or to clean the mines that are in the vessel, in the waters. Now, this is of most significance because if you look at the map and you see bab-el-mandeb straits right at the entrance to the Suez Canal, and the Suez Canal is the only practical navigation lane between the Mediterranean and the East. And this was well performed in the matter of Ever Given, which was grounded on the sand of Suez Canal in March 2021, and the Suez Canal was blocked. And all of the vessels just waited for the salvage operation to succeed without being guaranteed that this will succeed. And they did not take the route all around Africa. Why didn't they take the route? Because the route around Africa is not only expensive in terms of consumption of fuel and cost of operating the vessels throughout all these days, but the long route through Africa also exposes the marine adventure, being both the vessel and the cargo carried, to much more perils of the sea.
Yoav, I want to jump in here because one of the things that you've pointed out is that there is an obligation under international law for the parties involved, the international community that has their people on this vessel, to act against piracy. You've said there's a precedent as well that we have seen, such as the U.S. escorting vessels in this region. So ultimately, if there's both precedent, if there's also obligation, why do we not see any of these task forces or the U.S. Navy escorting these ships to prevent exactly this from happening?
First of all, we don't know exactly what amount of escorts were taken at that time, but unfortunately, this vessel is Bahamas flagged, and obviously, you can understand that the capabilities of the Bahamas and of the United States are quite different. So it might be that now, after this matter took place, that the international community has to step forward according to the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea and secure the innocent passage in these international waters, including these international straits.
Well, Yoav, I suppose very, very briefly, one last question. Because this is recognized as piracy internationally, are there any legal mechanisms, such as against the funding for these groups, that the international community can take to try to break their power?
The United Nations Convention of Law of the Sea relates to what happens in the sea, meaning either the rights of visit and hot pursuit and search of vessels and aircrafts, but obviously search an aircraft is quite difficult. What happens in the land is regarding to international anti-terror acts, money laundering, etc. But the convention relates to what happens in the sea and gives the force to use force against acts of piracy.
Which means that this is just a matter of force rather than a matter of trying to go after their banks. Thank you very much, Yoav.